Welcome to Flutter Masterclass, a complete no-nonsense guide to Flutter development. Get ready for a straightforward and comprehensive journey into the world of Flutter, where we break down complex concepts and empower you with skills to build amazing apps. In this Flutter Masterclass, we'll be starting from the absolute basics. We'll dive into the understanding widgets, unravel the magic of how Flutter works, and take each step one at a time. Throughout this masterclass, we won't just be studying theory, we'll be diving hands-on into the world of Flutter development by creating 6 unique apps. Each app we build serves as a practical lesson, ensuring that every concept is thoroughly absorbed through real-world application. We will kick things off by diving into the fundamentals with Hello Flutter. This initial app introduces you to the basics: widgets, columns, containers, laying a solid foundation for your Flutter exploration. Moving forward, Billionaire app invites you to explore interactivity, breathing life into the apps with dynamic experiences. This step marks a pivotal moment in understanding how Flutter can elevate user engagement. Next up is the To-Do app, where we'll take a deep dive into the advanced widget, draggable elements, and dynamic lists. The journey continues with Bucket List, exposing you to the fascinating world of API, Postman, map, and error handling. And after that, in Fun Facts app, we'll shift our focus to providers and global state management. This hands-on experience unlocks a powerful tool in Flutter development, enhancing your ability to manage app states effectively. And then we'll wrap our masterclass with the Global Chat app, a final masterpiece. Here you'll learn to build full stack apps using Firebase, connecting the front end and back end smoothly. Each app, carefully crafted and progressively challenging, builds on the previous one, providing a holistic understanding of Flutter. Get ready for an exciting dive into Flutter capabilities. I am thrilled to be with you on this journey, and I'll see you in the course. In this lesson, we'll install Flutter on Windows system. Now, if you are at macOS, then I want you to skip this lesson and head towards installing Flutter in macOS lesson. So now let's get started by installing Flutter on our Windows device. So navigate into flutter.dev and click at Get Started. And now we'll be selecting Windows over here. And the first type of app will be the mobile app, so click at mobile. Now scroll a little bit, and here you can see that in our development tools, it is required that we install Git for Windows. So click at Git for Windows, click at download. And now that the Git is being downloaded, let's move into the previous section. And now we need to install this Android Studio. This Android Studio comes with SDK platform tools and many other tools that will be required for Android development. So let's go ahead and install this as well. So click at Android Studio. You will be taken to the Android Studio page. Now click at download. And now you can download the Android Studio. Your version might be a little different than this one, but it does not matter because we will not be coding on Android Studio. We are only installing it for the tools and SDK it comes with. So click at download, accept the terms and conditions, and download Android Studio heads up for Windows. Now your download should start shortly. Now our Git has been already downloaded, so let's install this. So this will open up the installer, and if there are any previous version, then this wizard will automatically remove it and install the new version. Now after this is installed, you can uncheck all the boxes and you can click at finish. Now while the Android Studio is being downloaded, let's move to the previous page. And from this development tools list, we have already downloaded and installed Git for Windows. Our Android Studio is being downloaded. And once the download has been complete, you can go ahead and install this version of your Android Studio. So let's start with Android Studio installation process. Now your version might be a little bit different, but it does not matter. So click at next. And then we will be needing this Android virtual device. So click at next as well. And then you do not need to change this. Click at next and click at install. This installation process might take some time. Once it's completed, click at next. And then you can just uncheck this and we'll be coming to Android Studio later. So click at finish. So back to our list for requirement. We have already downloaded and installed Git for Windows. We have already installed Android Studio. So now we'll be needing a text editor for writing our code. So we have selected Visual Studio Code. But the installation of Visual Studio Code is in the next lesson, so I'm going to skip this for now. We don't need to download anything from here. And now the important part, we need to install Flutter Software Development Kit, also known as Flutter SDK. Now click at download and install. And now you can download this zip file into your system. So click at download and then your download is start. It might take a while for the download to complete. Flutter version that you are currently downloading might be a little bit different than this one, but it does not matter. Now once the download has been completed, let's go ahead and extract this zip file. We need to extract the file so that we can use as an SDK. So double click the file and extract all. Now you can check this box if you want. This will show the file that has been extracted, and now click at extract. Now once it is extracted, this is what it should look like. So inside of this folder, we will be having this Flutter folder, which is our software development kit, right? Now navigate into this bin directory and you can click here and copy this path. Now once copied, we will paste this path in our environment variable. So press your Windows key and then type env, meaning environment, and you will be getting this. Click at this edit system environment variables and click at environment variables. Now double click at this path, create a new path, and you can paste your directory over here. So click at OK, OK, and OK. Now let's test if our Flutter SDK is working fine. So click at Windows key and then type cmd, meaning the command prompt. So launch your command prompt and type Flutter Doctor in your command prompt. Now this will check if everything is working fine with our Flutter installation. And here you can see that we have got two errors. The first error has occurred because we have not completed our Android SDK component setup. We will be doing that shortly. And the second error has been triggered because we have not installed the files or the programs that are necessary for developing our apps for Windows. But we do not need apps for Windows, so we can ignore this Visual Studio error, right? So let's go ahead and start up our Android Studio so we can download Android SDK and install in our system. So you can close your command prompt for now and launch Android Studio. So you can click at next and you can select this standard, and then you will see the list of things that will be downloaded. Android emulator and different other SDK tools will be downloaded. So click at next, and then you can accept all the license. You can accept this as well. You can accept this, and then click at finish. And now the downloading and installing process will begin, and this will take a while. And after everything being installed, you can click at finish and complete your setup. After the installation, you will be greeted with this dialog. Click at more actions and then SDK manager. We need to install a couple of things to get our platform ready. So now click at SDK tools and check this Android SDK command line and this NDK. And now click at apply. Confirm this, and this will download the required command line tools and then the NDK tools. Once everything is downloaded and installed, click at finish to complete the setup. Now click at apply and then OK. So now open up your command prompt and type Flutter Doctor. So now the Flutter is able to find our Android Studio, but we have not accepted the license and it's suggesting us to run this command. So let's copy this to accept license. Alright. So copy this and then paste it over here. And now click enter. So when you run this command, most of you might not be getting this error. But for those who are getting this error, let's go ahead and debug it. Now if you are not getting any error, then you can skip a little bit and then continue with the lesson. Alright. We get this error when there is a version mismatch in our command line tools of Android SDK. So if you get this error, then open up your Android Studio. Click at more actions, SDK manager. Now switch to this SDK tools. And you want to uncheck this hide obsolete packages. Alright. And then you need to navigate into this Android SDK command line tools. Now you might have installed this latest version, right? So uncheck this and you need to download this 8.0 version. Alright. So click at apply. OK. And then the supported version will be installed. And now we will be able to accept the license. Alright. So let's wait for the installation to complete. So after that is installed, click at apply. OK. Close your Android Studio and then relaunch our command prompt. So now run Flutter Doctor again. And now let's copy this command and then paste it over here. Alright. Now type Y, mean that you want to accept this. Again Y. Yes. And we have accepted all of these licenses. Alright. So let's run this Flutter Doctor command again. So here we can see that license error is no longer here, but we are still getting two error The first error that can be ignored is that we are not developing the app for Windows, so we can ignore this. And about this second error, you might not be getting this error on your Flutter Doctor command. Now if you are not getting this error, then you can skip a little bit in this lesson and head towards installing the emulator. But if you are getting this error, then this is how you can solve this. So for fixing that error, navigate into the folder where Android Studio has been installed. In most of the cases, it is installed in local disk C, program files, Android, and then Android Studio. Alright, if you have changed the location previously while installing, then you can go ahead and find that location. Now once you are inside of this directory, I want you to open up this JBR folder. Control A, meaning you want to copy all of this, copy, and then navigate into this JRE folder and then paste it over here. Now you want to replace all the files in that location. So once this is done, navigate into the command prompt again, and now let's check this Flutter Doctor command again. And here you can see that everything is working fine and this error can be ignored. Alright, now while running this Flutter Doctor, if you are getting any additional error, then you can seek help from the Google or Stack Overflow or ChatGPT. Alright, this is a standard way of installing Flutter in your device. Now let's head on with the installing of emulator. So now you can open up your Android Studio again. Now let's create an emulator. So click at more actions and then virtual device manager. Now click at this plus icon and then let's select our device. And I recommend you select from phone category and then the Pixel 7. Click at next. Now if there is no option for Pixel 7, then you can select any of the phone, it does not matter. And now click the next button. And now we'll be selecting the Android version to install in that device. I currently have this upside down cake available. When I install Android Studio, you can have a look at any of this Android version, or you can download any of this Android version to use on your device. Currently this is available in my device, so I'll be selecting this and next, and everything seems alright. So now click at finish and our device will be created. Now if you want to launch this device, you can click this play button and it will start up our emulator. The first start of your emulator might take some time. Now the only thing remaining for our Flutter app development is to install Visual Studio Code. So we'll install that in the next lesson. So I'll see you there. In this lesson, we'll be working on installing Flutter in macOS. This will work for both Apple Silicon and Intel based machines, alright? And for installing Flutter in macOS, we have two options. The first option is installing Flutter manually. For that, navigate into flutter.dev, click at Get Started, select macOS, select Android or iOS and follow these steps. But there are a lot of steps, so it's better we go with the second solution. And the second option is installing Flutter using Homebrew. Homebrew is a package manager and it makes a lot easier and hassle-free for installing Flutter in our device. So let's get started with Homebrew. For that, navigate into brew.sh and install this package manager by using this command. Copy this command and now open up your terminal. You can open the terminal from the Spotlight search, or you can open up your Launchpad and then get the terminal. Now in terminal, paste the command for installing Homebrew and you may be prompted for the password. Enter password and allow few minutes for installation to complete. After this is installed, you might be getting this warning about a missing path. If you don't see this warning, then nothing else needs to be done, alright? But if you are seeing this warning, then we need to run some commands. There are two commands in this next section that needs to be executed. So first copy this first command, paste it and hit enter. Now copy this second command, paste it and hit enter. So now to check if Homebrew is installed successfully, type brew space --version, and if you are getting this version of Homebrew, then we are good to go. So now let's use Homebrew for installing Flutter. Move into Homebrew main page, search for Flutter, and then you'll get the installation command for installing Flutter using Homebrew. Copy this command, open up terminal again and paste it. Now this might take some time to install. So once the installation is complete, to ensure that Flutter is successfully installed, type Flutter space --version. And if you are getting this Flutter version over here, Flutter has been installed successfully. So next what we want to do is to install Android Studio in our device, because it's required for the Android app development, and through this entire course we will be testing Flutter app on Android emulators, so we'll be needing this software. So search for download Android Studio, navigate into the download page and click at download. Accept the agreement and download Android Studio based on your device, either Apple Silicon or Intel. Once downloaded, click at the file and move it to applications. Now open up your Launchpad and launch Android Studio. Now when launching Android Studio, you might be getting this dialog. Select this do not import settings and click at OK. Now don't send. Click at next. Now select the custom settings and next. So everything seems alright here. Click at next. Next again. And now accept all the license. And now click at finish. This will download all the necessary resources and it might take some time. When everything is downloaded and installed, click at finish. Now you'll be getting this dialog in Android Studio. Click at more options, move into this SDK manager, and now we'll be downloading the tools required for Android app development. So in this SDK platform tab, make sure that this latest version of Android is selected. Alright. So I'll be selecting this Android 14.0. Now move into this SDK tools tab and make sure that this Android SDK build tools is selected. And now we'll be checking some of the few tools required for the development. So NDK should be downloaded. And then we need this Android SDK command line tools. We also need this CMake. And this Android emulator and SDK platform tool is already selected. So click at OK and confirm the installation. OK. And then this will download the tools and everything that is required for the Android app development. So after the installation is done, click at more actions again and then virtual device manager. And now we'll be creating an emulator. You might already have an emulator, but let's create one anyways. Now select the size. I want the phone to be of medium size. Now select the Android version. You'll find the latest version around here somewhere in these tabs. So it's right here. So select this, click at next, and you do not need to change anything over here, but you can change this AVD name, but I'll not change it. Let's keep it as it is. Click at next, and now we have an emulator created over here. Let's launch this emulator. And now we have this Android emulator here, and throughout this course we'll be using this emulator for testing our apps. So now let's see if everything is ready for Flutter app development. For that, open up your terminal and type Flutter space doctor. This command will check if everything is okay with Flutter. So you might be getting some warning and error here. But first let's solve this license error in our Flutter doctor. So type Flutter doctor space and then double dash Android dash licenses. Now to accept the license, type Y and hit enter. Do it again, Y, enter, again, Y, enter, Y, enter. And now we have accepted all the license. So let's run Flutter doctor again. So in my Flutter doctor, I am getting an error saying that Xcode is not installed. This Xcode is required to develop iOS apps from Mac. But this is optional for now because we will only be testing Flutter app in Android emulator throughout this course. And you can set this up later. So let's ignore it. And here you might be getting another error saying that VS Code is not installed because we have not installed VS Code for now. And we'll be installing this VS Code in our next lesson. So now Flutter has been installed on your device and we are ready to develop apps through Flutter. So I'll see you at the next lesson. For developing our apps on Flutter, we will be using Visual Studio Code. So navigate into code.visualstudio.com and download the Visual Studio Code for your device. Once downloaded, install the Visual Studio Code. It is straightforward. So now that the installation is complete, you can launch your Visual Studio Code and now we can start installing extensions that will help us in Flutter app development. So navigate into this extensions tab and then the first extension that you need to install is the Flutter extension. Now go ahead and install this Flutter extension. This will help effectively editing, refactoring, running and reloading Flutter mobile apps. So let's go ahead and install it. This Flutter extension will also download the Dart extension. So search for Dart and it might have already been installed on your system. So if you are seeing this, it's already installed. So no need to install this Dart separately. Now another important extension that I want you to install is the error lens extension. So type for error lens. So go ahead and install this extension. This extension will highlight the errors and warnings as we type in our Visual Studio Code. This will make it easier for us to debug and catch bugs faster, right? So install this extension as well. Now there is one optional extension that I want you to install and that would be material icon theme. This is not a theme, but it's kind of a formatter for our files and folders. It provides beautiful layout for our files and folders that are open in our VS Code. So go ahead and install this extension as well. So after the installation of this material icon theme, you might be getting this dialog, and select material icon theme for now. And this will now format our project in a beautiful way. So now there's one very important thing that needs to be done to make our development easier. So when you are writing code in Flutter, many times your code overflows at the right side, making it difficult to see. Alright. So instead of letting it flow on the right side, we will be wrapping it. So in order to wrap the code and make it easier for us to view the code, move into this file and then the preferences, settings, and in this search you can search for word space wrap. So here you can see this word wrap, and it might be set to off, keep it on. Alright. So now our Visual Studio Code is ready for Flutter development. We have downloaded all the extensions, changed some settings, and now we are ready to go. So I'll see you at the next lesson. Now that VS Code and Flutter has been installed into our system, we must make sure that Git is installed and working fine in our device. We'll be using Git for cloning GitHub projects, so it is mandatory to have Git functional in our system. To check if Git is installed and working fine, you can open up your terminal in Mac through Launchpad, or if you are at Windows, you can search for command prompt. Once the command prompt or terminal is open, type git space -v to get the version of Git installed on your system. If you are getting this message, then Git has been installed on your system and is functional. But instead of getting this Git version, if you are getting any error over here, then you can Google how to install Git on your system. So if you are on Windows 10, you can search for how to install Git on Windows 10, and if you are on Mac, you can search for how to install Git on Mac. And there are multiple pages that will assist you for installing Git on your system. And if you are getting any error over here, then you can copy the error and search for the exact error in Google. And you most probably will be getting this Stack Overflow link, and you can solve these errors. Git is mandatory for this course, so make sure that Git is functional on your system. Alright? And do you have a GitHub account? If you don't, then having a version control system is mandatory for software developers. So navigate into github.com and create your account. Creating an account in GitHub is simple. Enter your email address and the setup will guide you through the process. Once your GitHub account is ready, you will be joining millions of developers that utilize GitHub on a daily basis. Now that Git is functional in our system and we have created a GitHub account, we can move forward with the Flutter app development. So I'll see you at the next lesson.